At 6:14 local time, the sea seems almost perfectly still. On the flight deck, every motion is smooth and exact. Yellow shirts guide a tow, a handler raises an arm, engines wait in flawless rhythm. Then the radar picture shifts. Inside the Combat Information Center, a fresh contact appears on the screen, then another, then 3 more. 5 surface tracks emerge almost at the same moment, stretched in a shallow arc and moving closer. No AIS, no signal, just speed. Contact bearing 247, range 21 nautical miles, speed increasing. The officer of the watch does not need to speak louder. The data says enough. The room narrows around the display. Bearings adjust, vectors redraw, the formation holds, the spacing is precise, the intent is difficult to mistake. 5 hulls, 5 wakes coming in fast. Set condition 3, man all key stations. Below deck, steel answers instantly. Doors secure on the bridge. The carrier holds its course, steady as a heartbeat. No turn away, no sudden sprint. The stretch of ocean ahead looks exactly the same as it did moments before. The first visual arrives through long-range optics. Dark outlines against the morning glare, bows slightly raised, white spray breaking along the front of each vessel. The image sharpens. Twin masts, low profiles, forward mounts in the open. In CIC, the classification appears. Venezuelan Navy. 5 naval vessels now occupy the carrier's forward quarter, closing quickly. With every update, the closest point of approach gets smaller. The range drops, 18 miles, 17. Bridge-to-bridge calls are transmitted in standard English and Spanish. Clear, professional, open frequency, no reply. The ships continue forward. To someone without training, the deck might still seem routine. Aircraft remain chained, elevators keep cycling. A catapult crew waits for the next signal. But beneath that controlled surface, the ship is fully alert. Sensors overlap. Systems exchange information. Every movement is logged to the second. Contact Sierra 1, increasing speed, 24 knots. Then a second Venezuelan ship shifts inward, narrowing the arc. It is no longer just a straight approach. It becomes something more intentional, a move designed to shape the water ahead of the carrier. Not a direct collision course, something more calculated than that. The air boss looks toward the horizon, then back across the deck. A brief nod. On the starboard side, rotors begin to spin. A Seahawk powers up, blades cutting into the morning air. It lifts cleanly and pushes forward into the light. Eyes overhead, presence without escalation. Inside CIC, the helicopter feed comes alive. Infrared shows hot engines against cooler steel. Deck crews aboard the Venezuelan ships are visible now. Helmets on, people moving with purpose. No systems appear actively manned, not yet. Range 12 nautical miles. CPA under 3. Close enough to matter. Close enough that any wrong move could later be measured in headlines. The carrier does not react outwardly. Course unchanged. Speed steady. The bridge remains quiet except for the steady cadence of reports. Every transmission is recorded. Every bearing change marked in time. Another hail goes out. Same message. Same calm tone. Silence comes back. The Venezuelan ships are now inside the pressure envelope. Their wakes overlap. White water crossing again and again as headings shift by degrees rather than miles. The nearest hull drifts toward the carrier's starboard bow, a deliberate test of distance. On the bridge, the captain watches the track line settle. Arms folded, no order to turn, no order to respond with force. The answer is restraint and documentation. Helicopter on station, CIC reports. Laser ready, recording. From above, a green point touches the bridge windows of the Venezuelan ship. A clear warning, impossible to ignore. A message without words. We see you. For a long moment, nothing changes. The sea rises and falls. Engines hum. 5 naval vessels maintain their line. Now they are close enough for paint schemes and hull numbers to stand out sharply. Range 9 nautical miles, the watch reports. Speed differential decreasing. That is the first sign the pattern is changing. One ship backs off by a single knot. Another slips a degree offline. The arc loosens only a little, but enough to show on the plot. No cheers, no remarks, only data. At 0631, the nearest Venezuelan vessel checks its turn. The wake straightens. The CPA levels out. It is no longer closing. The carrier keeps moving forward unchanged, as though the sea has already chosen how this ends. The moment passes without a shot and without a word. But the record is complete. 5 ships came too close, and the sea keeps every detail. At 0632, the distance holds, but the intent remains. The 5 Venezuelan vessels stay forward of the carrier's bow. They are no longer gaining speed, yet they still refuse to widen the gap. The water between the hulls becomes part of the maneuver itself. Distance compressed, options reduced, contacts maintaining formation. No answer to the radio calls. This is pressure without open combat. Close enough to force decisions, far enough to avoid clear blame. Each ship adjusts by degrees, not miles, shaping a loose crescent that hems in the carrier's path without crossing it. No single track looks openly aggressive. Together, they tell a different story. On the bridge, the carrier holds its stance. Course steady, speed unchanged. The answer is not movement, it is posture. The ship does not search for room, it claims it. Below, CIC sharpens the picture. Tracks are separated and matched, wakes are studied, engine notes are flagged by frequency. The SLQ suite listens, cataloging faint emissions. Surface search continues in low power, measured and careful. Nothing openly escalating, nothing entirely harmless. CPA trending stable. Closest contact holding 9 nautical miles. The Seahawk widens its orbit, circling with patience. From above, the geometry is unmistakable. 5 bows angled inward, each offset just enough to avoid collision, each demanding attention. The camera stays on the lead ship, then moves to the next, turning movement into evidence. Time, bearing, posture, every detail preserved. On deck, the appearance of routine remains. A tow resumes. A handler gives a signal. The catapult stays silent. No jets launch. That absence is intentional. The carrier refuses to answer pressure with matching pressure. At 0640, one Venezuelan vessel edges inward again. Half a knot more. The arc tightens by inches on the display. CIC notes it without emotion. Mark the change. Keep recording. Another bridge-to-bridge call goes out, identical to the first. Same cadence, same language. No threats, no emotion. It is not meant to persuade, it is meant to stand. Again, there is no reply. Now the pattern becomes clear. 2 ships hold speed, one shadows the Seahawk's orbit, not cutting it off, only acknowledging the eye above. A 4th drifts outward, then corrects. The 5th, the lead ship, keeps the pressure alive. Its bow is still pointed where it matters. This is the gray zone in motion. No crews at visible firing stations. No targeting radars announcing themselves. Just proximity used as leverage. Inside CIC, the timeline grows heavier with every passing minute. The carrier's escorts adjust quietly. A shadow here, a subtle shift there. Unseen, but present. The formation deepens without showing its teeth. Helicopter reports deck activity, comes the call. Personnel topside. No systems visibly manned. Infrared confirms it. Bodies move with discipline, not urgency. Binoculars rise. Hands shield eyes from the glare. No one waves. No one signals. At 0647, the sea begins to speak through the wakes. The lead Venezuelan ship feathers its throttle. Spray softens. A tiny sign, easy to miss. CIC catches it immediately. Speed reduction by 1 knot. Bearing unchanged. The carrier does not respond. It does not need to. The goal is not to win the moment. The goal is to make the moment carry a price. Another ship shifts a degree to port, opening a narrow strip of water that was not there before. The arc loosens just enough to breathe. The Seahawk dips, then climbs again, maintaining separation. The green laser stays dark. Presence, not provocation. On the bridge, the captain watches the plot settle. He knows this phase well. Pressure tests patience long before it tests steel. The answer remains the same. Restraint documented. At 0654, the Venezuelan formation settles into parallel tracks. Still close, still watching, but no longer closing. The CPA stops shrinking. The numbers hold. Contacts stabilized, CIC reports. No further encroachment. No announcement marks the change. No audible release follows. The tension simply thins, like fog lifting from the water. The ships are still there. The challenge remains, but the sharpest edge is fading. The carrier moves on, steady and immovable, its wake cutting clean across Caribbean blue. Pressure was applied. It was met not with force, but with time and a record that cannot be argued away. At 0656, the real boundary appears, not on the water, but in the data. The Venezuelan ships stay close enough to be felt, far enough to deny clear intent. Their formation breathes as one, throttles easing, then steadying. The carrier reads it for what it is, a test of rules, not steel. Contact steady, no fire control indications. That matters here. It always does. The Seahawk narrows its orbit, wide but deliberate. From above, its sensors pull clarity out of the glare, engine heat, movement across decks, the faint shimmer of exhaust. The MX-20 locks on and records. Human shapes begin to separate in thermal contrast. The time code keeps running. Recording active, laser standing by. This is where restraint becomes precise. Below, the ship's electronic systems remain fully open. The SLQ suite detects low-power sweeps, surface search, intermittent, cautious. Not targeting, not yet. Every signal is logged, identified, stored. Out here, the sea carries sound and signal the way land holds footprints. On the bridge, the captain studies the plot with steady hands. No request for speed, no order to turn. The response remains unchanged. Legality, posture, documentation. A third call goes out. Same words, same calm delivery. English, then Spanish. Clear enough to stand as evidence. Controlled enough to remain professional. Still no reply. At 0702, the Seahawk descends to 200 feet and holds position. The move is intentional, low enough to be unmistakable, high enough to remain non-threatening. Its shadow glides across a Venezuelan deck. Heads turn, binoculars rise. A figure steps back from the rail. Laser on, the aircrew reports. A green point settles onto the lead ship's bridge glass. Steady, centered, impossible to ignore. Not a threat, an unmistakable signal. The beam holds for 3 seconds, lifts, then returns slightly lower. The message needs no words. You are seen. This is being documented. On the plot, the lead Venezuelan ship hesitates. Not a turn, just the absence of acceleration that might have followed. The wake shortens slightly. CIC notes it immediately. Speed trending down by half a knot. Another vessel responds with a small correction, opening a narrow strip of water that did not exist moments before. The crescent formation loosens, barely visible but measurable. Inside CIC, there is no reaction beyond the record itself. At 0706, a Venezuelan radar sweep brightens briefly. Still surface search, still not targeting, enough to be noticed, not enough to trigger action. The SLQ suite listens more closely. Timestamp logged, signal recorded, no escalation. The Seahawk expands its orbit again, unhurried. The laser goes dark. The camera continues without pause. On deck, operations continue as if nothing unusual is happening. A tractor moves. A handler signals. The appearance of routine is deliberate. It is part of the message. At 0710, the lead Venezuelan ship makes its first clear decision. Its bow shifts by a single degree away from the carrier's path. The wake reveals it before the heading does. Bearing change confirmed, CIC reports. CPA increasing. That is the line, and it has been acknowledged. The carrier does not move to take advantage. It does not close distance. It allows the space to open naturally. Rules maintained. Pressure eased without concession. Another Venezuelan vessel mirrors the adjustment. The formation begins to stretch. No longer a barrier, now a line with gaps. The fifth ship lingers the longest, as if weighing one more moment. Then it too begins to ease away. Contacts backing off incrementally. The helicopter remains on station, cameras still rolling, capturing the end with the same discipline as the beginning. Movement slows, postures relax, decks begin to clear. At 0716, the first radio response finally breaks the silence. Brief, controlled. A patrol statement, a request for course change. Nothing beyond that. The bridge replies once, steady and precise. International transit, movements recorded. Unsafe actions will be treated as escalation. No further response follows. The Seahawk climbs to 500 feet and breaks away. Mission complete. The laser stays off. Cameras keep recording until the distance is fully restored. The carrier moves forward unchanged. No alarms, no escalation. Just a boundary held without crossing it and a record that will remain. In modern waters, the line isn't always defined by what is used. Sometimes it's drawn through discipline, patience, and proof. At 0718, the geometry finally begins to shift. Not suddenly, not all at once, just enough to matter. On the surface plot, the Venezuelan formation no longer holds its arc. The lead ship adjusts slightly to starboard. Its wake curves. A small change, but a meaningful one. Contact 1 altering heading. CPA increasing. That single update changes everything, not in volume, but in certainty. The carrier remains steady, almost indifferent, a fixed reference the others now respond to. Above, the Seahawk angles toward the lead ship and maintains altitude. Cameras stay locked, no laser, no descent, presence without emphasis. Below, the flight deck tells a quieter story than before. Movements loosen, chains are checked again. Aircraft are repositioned, not for launch, but for order, not a stand down. Confidence. At 0721, a second Venezuelan vessel follows. 1 degree off axis, then another. The crescent begins to open. What was pressure starts turning into space. Multiple contacts adjusting, formation loosening. This is the moment where escalation does not happen. No alarms, no visible systems activating. The carrier does not force the shift, it lets it unfold. The Venezuelan ships keep their systems covered. No crews rush into visible positions. The posture remains controlled, but the intent has clearly changed. The water between hulls expands, yards, then cables. The CPA steadily increases. The captain observes without a word. He understands this phase well. When pressure fades, it often does so quietly, allowing everyone to step back without losing face. The ship allows exactly that. At 0726, the lead Venezuelan vessel reduces speed again. Spray softens. The wake narrows. Another ship aligns into a parallel track, no longer cutting across the carrier's path, but pacing it at a respectful distance. Contacts transitioning to parallel tracks. That's the signal. The Seahawk widens its orbit, reflecting the restored separation. Its role shifts from applying presence to simply observing. Cameras keep running. The ending matters as much as the beginning. The bridge-to-bridge channel remains open. No new call is made, none is needed. The Venezuelan formation stretches out. 5 ships no longer moving as one. Gaps form, bearings stabilize. The sea returns to quiet, predictable motion. At 0731, the last holdout adjusts. The 5th ship, the one that stayed closest the longest, finally aligns with the others. The crescent dissolves into a line. CPA trending safe across all contacts. The room releases tension, though no one says it out loud. No one calls it a victory. The log records only what happened. Approach, pressure, adjustment, separation. The carrier continues forward. Same speed, same heading. Its wake cuts clean through water that no longer resists. Escorts maintain their quiet positions, unseen but clearly present. The Seahawk makes one final pass, wide and high, then turns back toward the deck. Rotors steady, unhurried. It lands as smoothly as it launched. Cameras still warm, storage full. At 0738, the Venezuelan ships begin to drift behind. Not retreating, not pursuing, simply present, observing. Their message delivered, the response received. The ocean returns to neutrality, untouched by intent. Only wakes remain, crossing lines that fade almost as soon as they appear. This is how a moment shifts without confrontation, not through force applied, but through force withheld. Through discipline that leaves no room for escalation. Through a carrier that held its course and a formation that chose distance over pressure. At sea, everything leaves a trace. And sometimes the most decisive mark is not the one that erupts, but the one that quietly turns away. At 0742, full separation is back in place. Not through orders, not through declarations, through geometry alone. On the surface plot, the 5 Venezuelan vessels now sit abaft the beam, their tracks running parallel, their speed matched to a posture that no longer applies pressure. The closest point of approach has widened beyond concern. The numbers settle back into green. Contact steady. Separation increasing. The carrier continues as if nothing ever interrupted the morning, because in operational terms, nothing did. No change of course, no sudden increase in speed, no deviation from the track ahead. The water remains open, and the ship keeps moving into it. Below deck, the work becomes quiet, precise, and final. Logs are completed, timestamps verified, sensor captures matched and reviewed, radar plots archived, every bearing shift, every speed adjustment, every emission locked into the record. This is the part the sea never witnesses. Inside CIC, playback begins, not to revisit the tension, but to confirm the sequence. Pressure applied, rules followed, separation restored, no uncertainty, no missing pieces. On deck, the helicopter powers down, rotor blades slow, salt mist settles across the frame. Memory cards are removed, labeled, and secured. The footage preserves what argument cannot erase. Distance tightening, intent being tested, space held without escalation. On the bridge, the watch changes over. Fresh eyes study a horizon that looks no different from any other morning. The Caribbean sun climbs higher. Light dances across the water, indifferent to what it carried less than an hour earlier. The Venezuelan ships remain visible astern, not fleeing, not closing, simply lingering long enough to be seen doing exactly that. Then, one by one, they widen their tracks. Their wakes curve outward. Their presence starts dissolving into ordinary maritime traffic. No final call is exchanged. None is needed. The carrier's escorts maintain their quiet positions, unseen protectors inside a wider geometry that never fully shows itself. The formation breathes together, then eases, returning to its normal rhythm. At 0801, the surface picture returns to a familiar pattern. Contacts blend back into the flow of the sea. Maritime traffic resumes its usual logic. There is no celebration. There never is. Silence is the result. What remains is documentation. In modern naval operations, that can matter more than anything else. Evidence lasts longer than posture. Records outlive rhetoric. When proximity is used as pressure, proof becomes the balance against it. The log does not record emotion. It does not guess at motive. It states only what occurred. 5 ships approached. Distance tightened. Communication was attempted. Pressure was applied without direct engagement. Separation was restored. That is enough. On deck, aircraft return to their measured choreography. Elevators cycle, chains clink. A handler gives a signal. The carrier remains what it has been all along, predictable, lawful, and unwavering. Far astern, the last Venezuelan wake fades, its lines erased by time and tide. The ocean takes no side. It only carries motion forward. This moment will not dominate headlines. It will not explode across screens. It will not demand a public response. And that, too, is part of the story. At sea, strength is not measured only by what can be launched. Sometimes it is measured by what never needs to be used. By the ability to hold space without taking more than is required. By restraint that costs the other side more than escalation ever would. The carrier fades into the distance, its wake straight and unbroken. The Caribbean returns to blue, but the record remains. In maritime operations, everything that matters is written down. And sometimes the most important line in the log is the simplest one of all. No further incident. The sea moves on. The ship moves with it.